Hey everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of A Plus Wrestling here on A Plus Productions. I'm your host, I'm Boris, and this week I am joined by my all-elite geek. He is none other than Daxavier Josiah. Dax, how's it going?
Kicking it old school. How you guys doing? Great to be back.
Yeah, man, it feels good, and it's been a busy few weeks, but man, over the next few weeks, we have big PLEs, pay-per-views, events from all companies. Even TNA, we're on the road to Bound for Glory. So much happening, so much going on. Dax, let's just get right to things. All right, one of the biggest things that happened over the past few weeks, or the past few days, I think, is Miro asking for his release from AEW. We know that he's been sparingly used, and well, I guess he's had it. He's had enough, and he's asked for his release from AEW. What do you think about that?
I think I agree with him. What else? Like, what are they doing with him? He's AEW's version of Malachi Black. You know what I mean? Like, this is exactly what I felt like WWE did with him, and they just wasted him, didn't know what to do with him. And yeah, let him go. If you don't have anything for him to do, dude, if you're not going to let this dude be him or do him, or you're not going to elevate him, don't waste him. Like, that's something that, like, that's a Eric Bischoff thing. That's a Vince McMahon thing. That, like, don't do the corporate thing. Like, yep. If you don't have anything for him, let him be him. Let him travel, go out and do something else. Let him, he's been through a lot. Yeah. Probably even more than what we know.
Exactly.
Let him breathe.
Exactly. Right. And his personal life is always in the spotlight with his, now separation, things like that. So let the man live. The part that gets to me is, Tony Khan on many occasions has had this holier than thou attitude when it comes to contracts and releases and things like that. But over the past little while, you're seeing that, well, he's no different than anyone else in the wrestling industry.
He's making moves like that's very common not in a good way that we've seen from past promoters and everything. And it's like, is it by nature that you become a promoter and you start just doing things this way? It's like, why do promoters have to be so shady? And I get that they have to protect themselves. And I've heard the saying, it's like, in order for you, and I think I heard this from Vince McMahon, mind you, which probably really orchestrated the ideology of every promoter out there, is that you have to be an asshole sometimes in order to run a business. And I get that in a sense, but it's like, does it have to be to that length? And now, because I know that where that came from, it's like, when you think about the ideology, do you really want to go by the ideology? Can you find a better way to compromise, people and without trying to get screwed over? It's a hard thing. It's a very hard situation, but yeah, I don't know. I want somebody to really explain to me, who's been in that position, to say, like, is that the only way that you can handle business with people?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's, to me, it's very weird. It's very, I just don't get it. I just really don't understand it overall.
Honestly, I just feel like, and I could be wrong, and this is why I say I feel like everybody tries to roll in the same realm as what Vince McMahon has done, because they see how successful he has done. And when you see that, it basically, you go by that because you see the success going on. So you figure that's the right way to go. And then we found it out. We're realizing that that's not true. I mean, look, P. Diddy the same way. We're seeing that right now. We're seeing all the things that he has done to be successful, but we're also seeing the dark side of the things that has been kept in the shadows for all along. And it's like, okay, now it's all coming back to him. It's now coming back to them. There's another guy, 43, all that. We're seeing all these people who are, rolled by the iron fist, and we're seeing that it's all starting to come back and crumble down. Is it worth doing it that way, or is there a better way of going about, running things, managing things?
Exactly. That's exactly it. So we'll see what happens there. All right, so the long-awaited rumors continue for the long-awaited TV deal with AEW and WB Discovery. No official word just yet, but we are getting word of some of the details coming out. So we are looking at a potential 4-year deal. It is rumored to be valued at $170 million per year. It will extend the AEW presence on TNT, TBS, and replays on True TV, with potential and highly suggested rumors that the pay-per-views will debut on Max beginning January 2025. This is, again, all rumor and speculation right now. Beside all of that, in parallel, we do know that AEW is shopping a third show, AEW Shockwave, and one of the suitors for that could be Fox. We talked about that last week. Man, so to me, one of the biggest takeaways is that everyone is saying that it is for two shows. So that would make sense why they're shopping around that third show right now. So we'll see what happens with that. What are your thoughts on all of this?
All sounds potentially great. The 100 plus mil is a great deal. Anybody who says that it's not a great deal are idiots who have not been in business enough to even acquire that. Everybody who makes these opinions are people who lack any business experience at all and doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. I would be so joyful if I can have a contract that will require me to make that much money, because that's not a small amount of money, people. Okay. And especially for a company that has only been out for 5 years. Okay?
Exactly.
You got to remember that. Like, nobody, I don't think outside of WWE has any other promotions ever accomplished that. And that's saying a lot. Now, with that said, my biggest aim from all this, I want all those pay-per-views to max subscribers. So that would be awesome, pending that it doesn't require an extra fee.
Exactly.
That's I want it to be like the way they're doing it with Peacock right now. Yep. You know, if they could do it that way, I'm all for joy. I will never miss a pay-per-view ever. Yep,
that's exactly it, right? Like, I'm a little hesitant to be celebrating because we do know that they can easily say, okay, you need Max and you have to pay X dollars to get the pay-per-view.
Well, wasn't there talks of Max or WBD experimenting with an idea of putting in a sports package? Yeah, I mean, they already show live sports right now, but that's a part of what we have right now. So if they add on AEW, is that still going to be with? Because trust me, I believe I own almost every streaming app right now. It's just, they're $1 or $2 more to their deals. It's like, geez, how much more of our in the US, you know, in terms of the US at least, how big of the economy do you think? I don't think everybody can afford these prices. You know, at least if they're affording probably the lower tier package that has the ads. But, you know, all the ones with the no ads, they keep adding up on that. So hopefully that's my deal. Is like, yeah, hopefully they don't add a sports package. They leave everything as is and I'll be fine.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm hoping. So we'll see what happens there. Here's a fun one that came out a couple days ago. Game Changer Wrestling, Zila Fatu will not be appearing on tonight's GCW event in Philadelphia or any GCW shows for the foreseeable future. We tried our best to avoid this situation, but we have reached an impasse. We wish him the best. That was essentially their tweet on X. So typically these types of messages happen when people are, well, WWE bound. So are we going to be seeing Zila Fatu in WWE?
It's feels like it's almost inevitable in a lot of ways. I mean, people have been already talking about it for the longest time anyway. This very much feels like the signature of WWE in works with this person, and nobody else really does that but them. So I would be surprised if it's not them and it's TNA. I would be surprised if it's them and AEW to that extent, because AEW allows all of their people, all their talent to go elsewhere when they need to. So this really the scent of this very much sound like WWE, and then we're probably going to see them there.
Yep, that's what that's what it appears like, at least. All right, those are the top three.
I mean, but look at the other. Wait a minute, hold on. Look at all the other people that has done the same thing. Yeah. There's a trail, there's a pattern. So I mean, you're right to feel like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? That's how I wanted to bring it up, because I know that even when people have been re-signed, WWE bound, they've kind of had to cancel all their dates, right? So there we go. Another member to the Bloodline storyline, most likely. All right, Dax, we're going to be taking a quick break. On the other side of the break, we are going to be having a conversation with Andre and Melball on the state of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then later on, Dax and I are going to run down the week that was, and we're going to also talk about the week that will be in pro wrestling. So we're going to take a quick break here on A+ Wrestling. And we're back after a quick break, and here we are on A+ Wrestling, chatting the week that was and the week that will be pro wrestling. But before that, we're going to have another edition of the State of Blank Promotion. We've already talked about NXT, we've already talked about Impact, and last week, I already teased that this week we are going to be talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling. And with me, it is our Japan experts, Andre and Melball. Welcome back to the show.
Yay, thank you for having us back.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us back, man. I love talking some Japanese professional wrestling.
Right? It's such an interesting topic, for sure, right? Especially with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I think New Japan Pro Wrestling had its height, and, from 2017, kind of building itself. But for me, I think that at their highest peak happened on April 6, 2019 in Madison Square Garden. I kind of think that was the biggest show and probably the climax of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And then, unfortunately, a lot of things happened. Some talent started leaving. The Young Bucks left. Kenny Omega left. And then, well, with the relationship with AEW, that continues to happen. But I want to dig a little deep into that. I want to really get a better understanding if the talent leaving really is the case for this, or is it one of those cases of, well, now that we have other ways of watching DDT, Noah, All Japan Pro Wrestling, that we're just seeing that New Japan Pro Wrestling was just another promotion. Because what really made New Japan Pro Wrestling very popular here in North America was the fact that we were able to easily watch it with New Japan World, especially once they started airing things in English. So I kind of think that really had a big part to do with their growth. Melball, what do you think?
I agree. And especially, and I hate saying it because everyone knows my love, quote unquote, for the Young Bucks. The North American talent being able to come back and forth, starting mostly with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, really making a name for themselves over there, I feel was a great kind of foot in the door for them, that kind of lead of the foot in the door. But yeah, the Madison Square Garden show, isn't that the show that Jay White allegedly sold out single-handedly?
Yes, that is the show.
Yeah.
That single-handedly that happened. Yep.
Yeah. All the credit to Jay White, and I'll say at that point in time, Jay White was the height not only of like non-Japanese guys in New Japan, but the height of New Japan at that time. I have to agree with your statement. It really was kind of that time where we started to get that English commentary, that it really started to come onto my radar. I actually started watching just before Kevin Kelly started coming on regularly for the shows back when they were still showing their house shows from New Japan, which introduced us to some interesting characters. If anybody can find out what happened to Dinosaur, please let me know.
Right.
Please.
Yeah, that's kind of when I started watching, right? Like around Wrestle Kingdom 9-ish. Is really when I started watching. I think that was the first Wrestle Kingdom that I watched as it happened in Japan. It was quite the time. And again, I think it was just because it was so readily available. And what really intrigued me the most is that at this time, I wasn't really watching much wrestling. I was kind of in and out of wrestling at this time. And for me, what really made it extra cool was the fact that their schedule isn't your normal North American schedule. They don't have weekly shows. They have shows that are very sporadic. You can watch the Road 2s if you want, but really the major stories are going to be happening in the major events that happen once every couple months, and then you have your Dominion and your Wrestle Kingdom and your King of Pro Wrestling and things like that, right? But for the most part, you don't need to watch weekly to know what's happening. For me, especially at that time when I didn't have that, the capacity in my life to watch so much wrestling, watching New Japan Pro Wrestling was just a treat, because I can tell you, for me personally, even though I was already watching New Japan for a little while, Wrestle Kingdom 11, Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, I think that's the match that just made me fall in love with the art of wrestling again.
Yeah, I get. Again, I was very much a guy who searched out wrestling, like saw Japanese wrestling on the random YouTube matches or Daily Motion matches that were put out randomly. People would share out. And so I was never a tape trader. I was a little young for that. I never got into that world. But finding internet was my great thing. Finding all those weird matches, and yeah, Wrestle Kingdom 9 was the first thing I ever watched live for New Japan, because it was available over here through, I think, Global Force brought it over as a pay per view, and we had Jim Ross calling it, and actually almost had John Pollock as his partner. Which was a funny part. It was just him and Matt. It was Ross and Stryker, and I thought they did a great job, and it help communicate. And yeah, I recognize some of these guys from ROH. I recognize the Bucks from their time in Impact as Generation Me. So like it had like an AJ Styles on the show, which helps bring you in for a character. And I felt that's where the company really, for me, started building. And in Japan, they already had their peaks and valleys, obviously, over the 90s and the 2000s, which the 2000s was more one of the valleys of the company.
Yeah, to say the least.
But they're on the rise. And yeah, I think the big peak, is, at least for internationally, was the Madison Square Garden show, because you have the pandemic the following year, which really changed how New Japan kind of was booking itself for a long time. And then you have the exodus of talent over those next couple of years. You lost the Bucks and Kenny in 2019, then you start progressively losing some of your stars in New Japan to AEW, to WWE. That they would leave, some of their top guys left for other companies over the years.
Yeah, if you had told me honestly, like 5 years ago, that Okada will not be the mainstay in New Japan Pro Wrestling, I would have laughed at you. If you had told me that Kenny Omega, isn't going to step into a New Japan Pro Wrestling ring for X amount of years, I would have laughed at you. There's just a lot of, weird things that happen with talent leaving that really did kind of siphon the ranks and really hurt New Japan, because for so many years, I used to talk about this on BAM. They're putting way too many eggs in the Okada basket, and they had so many opportunities to build up the Will Ospreys, to build up the Zack Sabre Jr.'s. I know that's happened and is happening, but I think they waited too long. And for a while, I feel like New Japan has just not had that superstar. As much as I love Naito, he's just not. He just isn't the guy to take New Japan to that next level, and that pains me as one of the biggest Naito fans.
Mm-hmm. I have to agree. Also, as a Naito fan, it has been very, we'll say, disheartening over the last couple of years to kind of watch it is a slow downward spiral of their kind of aging guys. Tetsuya Naito is included in that. El Presidente Hiroshi Tanahashi also very much included in that for me. Yep. I would say he's more of a hurting unit than anybody else on the roster almost at this point. He's reaching that Hiroyoshi Tenzan the kind of level for me where like Tenzan struggles to walk a little bit. Tanahashi, we saw him do a run-in with his other teammates earlier in the year.
Hobble in, more like it.
His teammates ran in there, took out the dudes causing the problem before Tanahashi managed to hobble down to the ring. Yep. He literally just did a run in and out. He did not stop hobbling. It was, So I do agree. The Bucks and Omega did really make a huge huge impact with those guys. And then with the pandemic, it really did kind of cause a huge issue with the company and how it booked. We did see Shingo Takagi at that point kind of step up, take over the title, I believe, and kind of carry it through that horrible time. And what fun story they played with him on that one, that the junior stepping into the heavyweight division and taking that big title. But they have, in the most recent years with AEW and that exodus of talent that we've been seeing across multiple companies now in Japan, they have reevaluated, I think, a little bit. And now that Presidente is kind of, I feel, focusing a little bit more on corporate as opposed to in ring time, we're starting to see them finally develop that younger talent and that superstar that I think we've been waiting for.
I think so. That's a very great points all throughout the board there. I do think that finally we are starting to see that young talent come through New Japan Pro Wrestling and actually be featured. You know, the Yuya Uemuras and others of that class of young lions, right? I'm just looking at the ages of some of the people that are constantly featured, right? We have David Finlay, who's 31. That's, you know, kind of prime age nowadays in pro wrestling. With New Japan and their style, that's, you know, it's kind of like, you know, it's getting up there. But we have Naito at 42. We have Jeff Cobb at 42. Hinari, he's only 32. Bushi is 41. You know, Tanahashi at El Presidente is 47. We have Goto at 45. Even Sonata, he's already 36 years old, at the same age as Okada. So I'm happy that they're finally putting this focus on the new crop of wrestlers. But the issue is that you don't have too many people to get them to that next level. Yes, you do have Naito, but you don't have that Okada to take that L for that new rising star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you look at it and like what I wish is that Yota Tsuji would have been a guy like I think out of like there's two guys that I really think could lead this company into the future, and that's Yota Tsuji and Hiromu Takahashi as younger guys who really have the future and have the charisma to carry, but neither got that big win in the heavyweight, because like Hiromu needs to move to heavyweight to be the leader of one of the leaders of the company. Don't get me wrong, but like Tsuji didn't get to pin Okada, the biggest star that company has had in like since Hiroshi Tanahashi, like bigger than Hiroshi Tanahashi in a worldwide sense. And if Yota Tsuji had Okada had that title at Wrestle Kingdom this past year, and going up against Yota Tsuji and Yota Tsuji pinning him to win that belt on your biggest stage, that would have set the guy up, beating the man who has held down the company for so long. You just never had that moment. And I think it hurts. Like, yes, beating a Naito would be cool, but it's still it propels him. But they've also made some mistakes this past year. Like, he won the cup but didn't win the title, and then they I'll say I'm a big fan of Daxavier Jr., a huge fan of that guy, and I'm happy he's getting the title shot. He won the G1 to get the title shot, but like there's a thing you could have done with Tsuji to get to that point and take that guy into the stratosphere, and they didn't do it again. So there's those weird little things that the company, trying to build these guys, and it doesn't help that people are getting hurt on top of it, with Yuri Mura now out for an undisclosed amount of time, like at least 6 months, it looks like. So like it's I hope they really get behind guys like Tsuji and keep pushing them as hard as they can, keep pushing Hiromu, move him into heavyweight, help push him up, because they need to really figure out a way. And if you look at them, their attendance is down. Yep. Noah's attendance is up. DDT's attendance is going up. A lot of these other companies are making headway. A lot of people are I'm hearing more that because Wrestling Universe has so many options now that certain fans of Japanese wrestling are going, well, why am I paying $14.50 or $15 a month Canadian, whatever it is? I think it's like $10 $10 American per month for New Japan when I could be paying the same amount of money. 10, yeah, Melon or 10, or perfect tens. When you could be paying that same amount of money for Wrestle Universe and getting 8 companies, like and I think just as good, if not some better wrestling than what New Japan is putting on.
That's exactly it, right? I think that, like I mentioned earlier, and I alluded to this earlier, I think what really helped New Japan Pro Wrestling get on people's radar and become that global force is the fact that they were readily and easily available for us to stream as streaming was becoming a thing. But now that other companies are doing it, we're able to kind of see the talent pool that other companies have. And, you know, one thing that I do want to quickly talk about is the relationship of AEW with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I've alluded to this many times. I think that it is a very parasitic relationship between those two companies. You cannot deny the fact that AEW is draining the resources from New Japan Pro Wrestling. You know, yes, New Japan Pro Wrestling might get a win here and there, but this is benefiting AEW not only from ticket sales, not only from Forbidden Door, but they're getting the talent as a result of all of this. So I really find that I don't see any benefit in the grand scheme of things for New Japan Pro Wrestling and AEW.
Well, look at the first Forbidden Door alone. What do you say? At least 75% of all the top matches went to AEW. Like outside of Sonata and Jungle Boy, which Captain the black hole of charisma that is Sonata, love him in ring, but the black hole of charisma that is Sonata versus the man who just could not figure it out at the time, Jack Perry, and was a very underwhelming match. It's those kind of things. Like, yeah, you get a win there, but that was like early on in the card. The big stuff, and it's all this, like, the relationship. As a fan of AEW, I love seeing it because I love both these companies. But it hurts me as a fan of New Japan to go, why are these guys the butt end of all of this?
I have very much not good opinions on AEW and its involvement with pretty much anything, because again, I just look at Tony Khan as a spoiled brat of a child who has too much money and only hires his friends. Anywhere that AEW is kind of involved, you know they're going to be on top, regardless if they deserve it or not, or whether the workers deserved it or not. We see that too also, though, in indie shows here, where we see people who are not capable about wrestling certain people picking up certain wins. It's, as a fan, as Andre said, it sucks. It really does suck. But the problem becomes, we look at the size differential in the company. As you guys mentioned, the ticket sales are down for NJPW. We have way more options to watch. Like, I'm watching more DDT than anything. But, like, again, Chris Brooks in a blindfold bra match. I mean, that's quality entertainment, you guys. But back to the point, like, how much do we have to ask? How much is AEW almost helping in New Japan stay afloat right now? If that is the case, if funds are low, we still got contracts that these guys need to have paid. I mean, David Finlay just resigned. He probably wasn't cheap. Gabe Kidd just re-signed. He probably wasn't cheap. None of those War Dogs are probably cheap because they're one of the more credible factions that New Japan has for itself right now. But even they have been, like, shunned out of the AEW thing. We saw the War Dogs, Clark Connors, Drill Maloney, proclaim they wanted to be a part of Forbidden Door. Hell, they even cut a pretty decent promo that I shared with Andre about it. Not a whisper. But then again, AEW's tag division, I'm sorry, is kind of shit. I don't think that they had anyone possible to step up to the War Dogs. So, yeah, it's where AEW is concerned. I kind of agree with you, Boris. It's very much a parasitical kind of relationship, and it doesn't really benefit New Japan fans to watch it, because we're just going to see our favorites lose to people who are not quite on the same level. And then we lose our talent to them, and we still don't get to see them because they're barely on TV. And if they are, they're just sitting there going, bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, right? And I've always said that brings up a great point, right? It's like you have Kenny Omega is a perfect example of this. You have AEW Kenny Omega, then you have New Japan Kenny Omega. New Japan Kenny Omega is the one who can face Okada, the one who can face Will Ospreay. Then you have AEW Kenny Omega, where he tries to cosplay and redo a Undertaker promo, and things like that, right? It's just not the same, and it doesn't work out. That's a conversation for another day. Sticking with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and where I think that what we're trying to say is like New Japan isn't going anywhere per se. I'm sure that they do have some help from people, from some quiet investors, but where I really struggle with New Japan Pro Wrestling is in the star making. So Andre and Mel, I'm going to ask both of you, like, where do you see New Japan Pro Wrestling within the next 12 to 18 months? We'll start with Melball.
Like what you mean with like star power or emerging
star
stars?
Power to global reach to all of that fun stuff.
Oh, wow. I, as someone who's just interested in social media and marketing in general, what I've noticed about New Japan is it started marketing a lot more on its social medias, both in its English counterpart and in its Japanese counterpart. So if they keep growing on that, I feel like they will be able to maintain a foothold in the wrestling community very, very easily. But in regards to like superstars and stuff like that, you got to really keep an eye on those four horsemen, those musketeers, if you will, Shota Umino, Yuya Uemura, Ren Narita, and Yota Tsuji. Also got to keep an eye on that Brock Lesnar 2.0 Kazakhstani giant, Bolton Ole. That guy is someone who Tanahashi himself is kind of guiding throughout this company. If he keeps going the way he's going, I feel like they could end up with a hopefully less, controversial Brock Lesnar-esque character coming out of there. Maybe a nicer version.
There we go.
My interactions with him have been pretty nice anyway.
There you go. Andre?
There's a lot of what's coming in as you have the big match coming in October for Sabre cashing in his G1 title shot early at King of Pro Wrestling. So I think a lot of the assumption is he is going to be the next guy to carry. And do I see him losing it by Wrestle Kingdom in January? Probably not, which I think is a good thing because it allows you to take this guy throughout 2025 and have him, who is arguably the best wrestler, one of the best wrestlers in the world in Sabre, because he's going to adapt to working with high flyers. He can work at that, and he is such a great technical wrestler, eh? He can work to any style, which allows him to carry the company as your top guy, having insanely good matches. The guy can talk, he can speak, he's great in Japanese, great in English. He can appeal to both sides. So he can help carry the company for the year while you take a Yota Tsuji, you take a Hiromu Takahashi, Yuya Uemura when he returns. Like one of these guys, have one of them win the G1 next year. And after a great year with hopefully Sabre helping to really open up, because with a lot of English promos to really help open up this side of the world more, and especially with Forbidden Door in London next year, it's going to be interesting too to see him there and how they present him on that show next year, and then having a Yota Tsuji on, hopefully Yota Tsuji or Yuya Uemura possibly winning that G1 next year. And then hopefully the Wrestle Kingdom is where you 2026 is the start of the new Four Musketeers era, and I'm really them all as kind of all becoming the top guys in the company. Hopefully by the end of 2025, start of 2026 is what I'm hoping for.
Agreed wholeheartedly with you. All right. Thank you so much, Andre and Melball, for joining me this week. I'm sure you're going to be back very soon. We're going to be taking a quick break here on A Plus Wrestling. And on the flip side, Daxavier and I are going to be chatting the week that was and the week that will be pro wrestling. So you're not going to want to miss a thing here on A Plus Wrestling. And we are back here on A Plus Wrestling, chatting the week that was and the week that will be pro wrestling. Dax, what a week! It's been a lot of fun this week watching wrestling. I was a little behind, so I took a lot of this morning to catch up. But
good God!
Wow, yeah, wow.
You gorged.
Yeah, I did. Oh, I did. Let's chat some WWE to kick things off. One thing that really stood out for me was Friday's segment with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes in Georgia Tech's field. I loved this promo. I loved the cinematic approach that they took to this. I don't think we've seen anything like this in WWE for sure. What are your thoughts on that promo?
There's a part of me that's like, this is ridiculous, but I can't deny it. It was just an awesome segment. Because I grew up with wrestling supposedly being a real sport vibe. So, and I know they've been doing it like past the time of like TNA's been doing it and WWE started doing it after them. But with that said, it was dope. I loved the way Cody did his lines. I love the way Roman did his line. Like, these are two now established actors because they both have been involved in movies before and TV shows. So they know how to do it. They know the good chemistry. And God, look how far Roman Reigns has gotten. I mean, we forget that this dude was not the promo guy in the Shield back in the day. I used to watch him at OVW too, and he was actually not bad there, but they wouldn't let him be on the mic like he is now. And this dude is awesome. And to play off of Cody and the way that they went off, I dug it. Overall, I dug it. It is what it is. I love the cinematic part. They did it right. If they're going to do it, they did it right. And it was just top of the line, as you would expect from, this company, this $1 billion company.
Exactly. And I expect to see more of that presentation. And, especially on Raw, I would be shocked if they don't do this a little more on Raw as they move over to Netflix in the new year. So,
oh, good Lord. I can't wait.
Right? It's going to be interesting.
I can't even fathom how the production value and everything's going to be with that when that comes.
Yep. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was, man, it's just one thing I love about SmackDown, and I'm going to miss so much about SmackDown when the Netflix deal kicks off in January, is that SmackDown is only 2 hours. Watching the 2 hour show, I don't know, to me, it's the perfect amount of wrestling. Yeah.
Agreed. No, absolutely. I am not. I mean, all right. With that said, I don't mind the 3 hours that I've recently been watching with Raw. They somehow make it. I didn't have to go through what you guys went through during the pandemic and those 3 hours and during the Vince era and everything. But I came in at the right time, and so far they're progressing these 3 hours great. But yes, 2 hours will blow by fast. We see how AEW does it all the time, even with that overage that I can't stand. But it still breezes by really quick. It's like 9:30, and I'm like, damn, this thing went off like a hitch. So I will miss that indeed. But with that said, WWE has been doing pretty, Paul Levesque has been doing pretty damn good with this. So I take it with a grain of salt on that.
Yeah, we'll see, right? Like, it's easy to just judge a book by its cover, but just 3 hours sometimes. Like, you're right, Raw has been very, very fun recently, but man. Sometimes when
if I had a choice, hell yeah, 2 hours. Because then I want all the lead-ins to the pay-per-view to be 3 hours. I want it to be. I don't understand. And I get it. No, I do understand. It's sponsorship revenue. It's all about revenue. But man, it was just so good to have a 2 hour deal, make you want more, and then you go to the pay-per-view. It's like 3 hours, and you're just entertained for this epic, conclusion or continuation of a story from that point.
Yeah. That's exactly it. One of the stories that I wanted to talk about from Raw was the Braun Strowman, Bronson Reed angle that they're doing. Two beefy, meaty men just going at it. I'm liking this. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm loving it. I love the kaiju battle. I don't know why y'all saying meat battles. I call it kaiju. I think it's more appropriate, much more epic to call it that. It's like these two dudes. And Bronson Reed, I think he's the lead in this. Bronson Reed is helping Braun Strowman to keep up. This dude is fast paced. He's very agile. He's, it's almost like their version of their version of a big man versus a strong man versus an athletic dude.
Yeah.
Because Braun Strowman is not the agile person. And I hate when he runs around the ring because he just looks so slow when he does. But Bronson Reed really kind of compliments him, almost to the point that I feel like they're going to be a tag team.
I think that would be the best outcome, in my opinion. I think that...
Come on, we got the Kabuki Warriors, get the Kaiju Warriors going. Let's go.
There you go. There you go. Let's talk about Judgment Day. How are you feeling with this whole Judgment Day storyline? They're really the focus of Raw. I find that, almost every other promo, it's some promo involving Judgment Day, Damian Priest, and Rhea Ripley in some shape, way, or form. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I'm absolutely loving this deal. And you've been watching this longer than I have. Weren't they considered like the mid-card, group?
Yeah,
at some point. They've managed to elevate them to a main card situation, especially dating back since WrestleMania and everything. I'm loving this. Dominic Mysterio has been on an all-time high for me. I'm really, I'm new to him more than you guys, so I've been highly impressed with this kid that I used to watch, and they were, putting up on, for adoption at one point as a kid, to see him grow and be in such an established storyline, and him and Ray and everything. It's awesome to see from that standpoint. I just love the direction that they're going right now. This could have gone a whole different direction. This could have, really fouled up in a major way, but it hasn't. And kudos to whoever's booking, writing, whatever this. I'm enjoying it. It's just as much as I am with the Bloodline storyline.
Yeah, they've been doing a really good job, right? I know some people are a little iffy on stuff, but you know what? Every show needs its main characters, and I think that the Judgment Day, they're just doing a really good job. It'll be interesting where they go after Bad Blood, considering that, there's going to be a lot of matches involving them, because we have Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. We also have Damian Priest versus Finn Balor on that show. I can suspect that things are going to continue, but so far, so good.
But that's the thing. I mean, you got Rhea with the chase for the gold. You got I was about to call him punishment. You got Damian, who's like revenge tour right now, his own revenge tour, and you got all of these guys at the top of their of the heap. They're the champions right now. They're the tag champions. You got Carlito. There's so many different dimension, aspects of this that is something to enjoy. None of it feels left out. And at least, of course, in my view. Yeah. Like, I don't have a cynical bone in my body right yet to say that anything's standing out on my end.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, let us talk about SmackDown. Again, SmackDown was a lot of fun, and it's the storyline that I'm really enjoying is the whole Kevin Owens Cody kind of sub storyline on top of the whole Bloodline Cody Roman story. I'm digging this. I'm liking this. Thoughts on that?
Agreed. Again, I enjoy SmackDown in a whole. That's another one that you pointed out that I'm like really keep my eye on. It's like, is he or is he not going to? Is he really pissed off? In a lot of ways, does he have, enough merit to be pissed off? And, there's a lot of questions going into that, but there's a lot of intrigue going into that with Kevin Owens as well. Is he going to go into, I honestly, I would love for him to just go in another direction with this, because we've seen him do the obvious for so long, but no, SmackDown, I enjoy the show when I watch it. I'm not like head over heels like I am, but I love the production value. I've always been a fan of WWE production and logo design, and I kind of like really, I really get inspired by whoever's doing the logo designs and all this stuff there. And that new SmackDown logo, dope as hell.
Yep.
Mind you. So I'm always in gear. They've been doing pretty good. And by the way, speaking of which, I don't know if we're gonna go back to Raw real quick, but Joe Tessitore, love him. Yeah. I'm a Joe Tessitore fan. I've been watching him in other sports. I watched him in Holy Moly of all places. When I don't know if people watched that show, but it was a comedy, miniature golf show that comes on in the summer, and it was Steph Curry Productions or whatever like that put it together. But he was the commentator on there, and I'm like, this dude could literally do pro wrestling. And damn, they must have followed up on it because they grabbed him real quick, and he is assimilating really, really well compared to a lot of other people in the past. So yeah, kudos to him on that. I need to give him a shout out.
Yeah, and he has a distinct voice, and that's what I like about him, right?
I think that was the intrigue about him. But also, he's a consummate professional. He does his homework. He knows he's the best out there, when he does it. So I mean, when he first came on, first of all, he's far from Mike Adamle. And I need people to watch old clips with Mike Adamle to make sure to compare and contrast the two. Like, for them to trust him enough to give him a live mic in the arena to introduce the crowd, that speaks volumes of how confident they are that he's going to do his job. And to me, he has not done wrong yet. And he's gelled really well.
Yep. Agreed 100%. I think he's doing a great job. And I think that as he learns kind of the wrestling side of stuff, he is going to be great.
But he's been doing it surprisingly. He's naming names.
Yeah.
He's naming moves. Like, I'm really surprised at how much of I guess he has to be a fan at a certain level to really know these things. You can't just, we've seen, commentators in the past that didn't even know half of the moves that he's referencing and saying. So, I mean, you gotta give him his flowers, man.
Yeah. And that's something I think that's one of the biggest changes we're seeing, in the post Kevin Dunn era, where it just feels like wrestling again, right? Like the commentators are commentating as if it was a sport as opposed to this presentation. I don't know how to quite explain it, but if just the fact that they're naming the move names, to me, I love that.
I wonder how much in a sense, like, he understood what was the entire landscape and ideology of what was going on in the company pre and post, McMahon, before he decided to want to jump in. Do you think that he jumped in to this knowing that he would have more control over his, because I don't think he's going to have the same situations that a Michael Cole is going to have. Like, I don't think they're going to make him do bumps or anything like that, or, make him look like a fool. He's not that type of dude. I would be very surprised if he allows that.
Agreed. I think he kind of knows what he's there for, and he's going to be doing his own thing, right? And again, I think the important part is because he has that distinct demeanor to him, that distinct voice, that
he's a brand. He's a brand.
That's exactly where I was going with that. You said it. That's exactly where I was going with that. He will be a brand. Like, he will be recognizable. You hear that voice, it's Raw.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I think that, like, he's kind of the CM Punk of commentators right now in a lot of ways. Yeah. Where he has a name coming in, and, like, you ain't gonna mess up that name, but so what, you're gonna have some control in your deal. They're not gonna make you look like a fool.
Exactly. That's at the end of the day, that's all that matters. All right. Anything else in WWE that you want to chat about that we haven't brought up?
No, I think right now it's just they're doing their thing.
All right, let's flip the page to some AEW. Huge AEW is happening this week as we have the 2024 edition of AEW Grand Slam, one of the biggest shows of the year, and man, this card seems like a mini pay-per-view to say the least. But before we get to that and preview that, how are you feeling about AEW? It's been a little while since we've talked about AEW.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid this conversation, to be honest. Honestly, I still watch. I'm still a AEW fan, but I will admit I don't have that spark that I had the first year, second year, third year, and damn fourth year. It's something missing from it. There's something off from it. And I know possibly a lot of it has to do with the changes that are going on. It feels a little bit too, it feels like everything I didn't want it to feel like right now, and that was WWE.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of sports entertaining type of things, but there's still some great match quality overall. But storytelling is fair. It's not as, must see as what it used to be. Like, I wish that we have an ability to go watch the backlog of the first 3 or 4 years. I guarantee you it's going to be a lot different than what we see now. But with that said, I still like the matches. I still like what's going on. I'm trying to get into the story lines, but they're not as captivating as what I see on WWE right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's very, very much like small story match, as opposed to this overarching story that I found AEW used to have, but they're losing that, right? I'm not saying they don't have stories, because they do if you pay attention, but they're not this overarching overall story. We have stuff like the Bucks and the EVPs. We have, whatever Moxley is up to right now and things like that. Yeah. But, week over week, it's shorter term stories.
I think that's the biggest problem, because when we first started, it was very episodic. We had something, we always knew what was coming next week, and we don't get that anymore. We don't get the long term anymore, which is something that I thought really was the real strength of this promotion of this company. And a part of me wants to believe, or feels like, is Tony Khan doing too much? I mean, we know what he's doing behind the scenes. He works with the NFL. He's scouting. He's doing all these other things. Is that too much? And yeah, I mean, do we really need a crystal ball to predict the obvious of that answer? No. I think he's doing too much. I think he doesn't have enough time to really invest in everything. And yeah, even though you want to, you feel good about doing everything, you want to do everything, doesn't mean that it's a good thing to do. Hell, people drive. I've seen women drive their cars with their knees. Yeah, that's sexy as hell, but that don't mean it's a good thing to. I did it too. Okay. Doesn't mean you should be doing it. Okay.
Exactly.
But I still got hope. It's still a solid show to watch every week. So I just want something a little bit more for me and everybody to grab onto.
Yeah. For me, it's I think the biggest change for me is that I don't feel like I need to watch it as it's happening. I don't feel like it's must-watch TV anymore. Like, I will record it and I'll watch it when I have the time.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly how I kind of feel. Like, I still watch it the day of, but I do have it on DVR. And you know what I used to do? I used to rewatch the shows. When a new show comes on, how I used to work. When a new show would come that week, I would watch last week's show to catch up. I gotta admit, I haven't done that as much lately. I still got things on DVR, but I just, I don't feel like it. It's like, there's nothing really must see to watch to the point that I need to follow up. You wouldn't go watch Hologram again? No, I'm good.
Exactly, right?
There's no slight on Hologram other than the fact I don't like his ultra violent ski mask that he wears. Yeah. But aside from that, it's like a glorified ski mask. I hate that thing. I hate it. Like, cover that damn mouthpiece. I'll be all right.
Oh, it's funny. It's true, though. It's 100% true. AEW Grand Slam Dynamite from New York this week. Going to be a huge show. So let's just run down the card and chat about things. On Collision for the FTW Championship, we have Hook versus Roderick Strong.
That should be a really good match. This will be a good test for Hook, because as great as we talk about Hook, but he's one of those accentuate the positives, hide the negatives type of guy. Roderick will test him. Yep. I've watched Roderick for years live at Ring of Honor. He will be Hook will be tested.
Yeah, one of the most.
But also, Hook will be taken care of.
No, that's exactly it, right? One of the biggest undervalued performers in wrestling is Roderick Strong.
Undoubtedly. I mean, it's funny though. We talk about the Okadas, who was the other one? The Alphas. No, Roderick Strong can have a 5-star match with any of those guys at any time. Okay. Exactly. If you go back, if any of you are, young enough or had his ability to watch Ring of Honor matches, if you can, watch anything that involves Roderick Strong. That dude is the Arn Anderson of today.
Yep. All right, on Dynamite, we have the Young Bucks versus Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher for the AEW Tag Team Championships.
Oh, that match is, that match is going to, that's going to be the match of the night. That's going to be arguably the match of the night. It's no way that match is going to flop.
No, it's going to be great. Where do you see this match going? Because there's so many possibilities in regards to who can win, and really, there's no bad answer. If Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher win, the Don Callis family fall out. If the Young Bucks win, well, it's the EVP's reign, right? Like,
here's my prediction, and I hope I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, and I don't care if I'm wrong at the same time. Maybe I just want to, as long as the match is great, it's fine. But at the end of the day, I see the Bucks keeping those titles, and I see Kyle Fletcher turning on his friend.
I think the randomness of having Will Ospreay just randomly show up with the Don Callis family, I think that's the inevitable of what's going to happen. I think that the reason why they realigned themselves is because we're going to get the official, kicking out of the Don Callis family of Will Ospreay.
Right, and I think that I've seen that way back when he decided he wanted to, go on his own. And Don Callis is gangster like that, so you think he's going to let that go? No, he's not going to let that go. He's going to Wilson Fisk his ass, and this is going to be the thing. And I think this is all an elaborate setup.
And I would assume that Ricochet helps them. What I would love to see is Ricochet join the Don Callis family. Can you imagine Ricochet's wrestling ability with Don Callis' speaking?
My storyline, that can still happen. That can still happen. They'll we don't need you. We got our Ospreay right there.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh my God. And that'll be a change for Ricochet. Like, we haven't seen Hill Ricochet. And the Ricochet that I know, he could be the Drake of the whole entire thing. And you know what I'm saying? And be all stylish and all that. I know this dude has been waiting to be himself for a long time. And he's kind of like a really kind of swag dude. So put that in Hill for him. Oh, I think that'll elevate him.
Yep.
And with Don Callis, boom.
Yep.
Let's go.
Look, they've already announced their match for the 5th anniversary show in just a few weeks. Ricochet versus Will Ospreay. I think this is the natural story where Ricochet teams up with Will Ospreay for a couple weeks. They're all still happy and friends, and then boom, that's when the heel happens.
I would also argue if they do it right, this can be the storyline that will bring everybody in. This will be the storyline that gets everybody's attention, because if you've seen Ospreay and Ricochet go before, and they're both seasoned vets now. I'm ready. I think I will be deeply more invested than I am now if it goes in that direction.
For me, that's what would make it must watch. Like, I don't want to miss what's going on with those two, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's see what happens. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed on that one. For the AEW Women's Championship, we have Mariah May versus Yuka Sakazaki.
Yuka Sakazaki, I've always enjoyed her, but making her a live anime character is hilarious. I hope that they keep her doing that, just saying hi and bye, because her pitch is insane. But with that said, she's also awesome. And I know she's going to have a good, solid match with Mariah. I think Mariah's, she's slowly getting her groove with being a heel and everything. So I'm really enjoying her a little bit more and more each week. Match quality, I think they'll have a solid match.
Yep. Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin for Allin's AEW title shot.
That's going to be what JR used to say, a bar burner.
Yeah,
that one is going to be just all over the place, type of deal. I do expect Moxley to win, obviously, but it's not going to be like he's not going to totally bulldoze this kid. Him and Moxley are going to have a really great match. Really great. This is going to be one of those matches that kind of, contrast from everything else. You get right. This show is going to have variety. This is going to be the match where it's just they're going to go at it hard.
Yep. So
I'm looking forward to that and seeing where this new faction is going after this too.
And you know that both of these crazy MFers are just going to tear each other apart. Like basically, it's going to be a crazy match regardless. But you do, I agree with you. I do think John Moxley is going to win, and somehow we're going to get a triple threat out of this with Danielson.
Oh, you think? I just thought he was going to just take that opportunity and grab it with it. It'd be interesting to see how they pull that off.
Yep.
And I wouldn't mind it either.
All right, a match that we never thought we would see in 2024, Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness.
Look, I saw their original match, and if you guys didn't see the original match, sorry for you, but that was a awesome, but also insanely brutal match. Y'all need to go back as fast as possible to watch a Nigel McGuinness match to know exactly what you're about to see, because they're going to go. I hope they don't go too hard, because the reason why Nigel is where he is right now is the reason why he is not wrestling anymore. And I'm pretty sure they're going to have a hard but safe match. He's really big on concussive like situations and all this stuff. So I will be really surprised if he goes that hard. But if we saw what he did in All In, he's ready. I'm ready for it as well.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to this match. Nigel McGuinness back in the ring in 2024. Who would have thought? Those are the announced matches so far on AEW Grand Slam this week. Overall, I'm really looking forward to it. I know I say this a lot with AEW, and I keep on giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I really do feel like this week's show should be that turning point for them, where they should be able to get more eyes on the product, especially if the TV deal is done, like I've been saying for a really long time. Now it's time for them to focus on the product.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree with that. Let's see how it goes. And yeah, I think a lot of people are just waiting and chomping at the bits for whatever reason. Because it's not like these guys aren't already successful as is. I don't understand why people don't give them the flowers for what it is. Just, a lot of bitter trolls out there, but this will just elevate them. This will shut a lot of people up. And, I'm ready for it. I've always wanted to see this company, rise since 2019. I want to keep that going because it helps the industry, period. It helps these guys with jobs, period. It helps us as fans enjoy more of what we love, period. So let's not shut down all of it.
Amen to that. Amen to everything. And I think that's a perfect way to cap off this week's episode of A+ Wrestling. Dax, thank you so much for joining me this week. The door is always open for us to chat some pro wrestling. And Dax, let everyone know where they can find all of your other awesome work.
Well, if you guys don't know already, I also have a show called ACMG Presents Talk Time Live, ACMG for anime, comics, movies, and games, where I talk about all the latest fandoms and going on today with all the latest news, reviews, and interviews with some people you may recognize in the industries that you love. So check out TalkTimeLive.com, where you can hear all audio episodes and video exclusives with some of your favorite actors, game developers, and producers and everything, whatnot. Go to TalkTimeLive.com and you can check all that out right there.
Excellent. Great interview this weekend.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Allison Lee Rosenfeld, Gundam Seed Star, and Jeffrey Thorne as well. Writer, producer, showrunner, and actor. You ever watch A Heat of the Night?
Yeah.
If you watched that show and there was a guy that was always in every episode, he was the only black guy sitting around on a computer. That was him.
That's awesome.
For 11 seasons. But then he became a writer, and he not only writes for Marvel Comics, he wrote for DC Comics, but he also writes television. He wrote Power Book 2 Ghost, season 1. He was the executive producer for that. He also writes for a lot of other things. So he always comes on the show. We catch up on everything. So those are some of the people that you get to check out. Allison Lee Rosenfeld as well. Bonnie and Nurse Joy from Pokemon. And she currently is Luna Marie Hawk on Gundam Seed Freedom, which is on Netflix right now. So we talk about all that. You can check it out and TalkTimeLive.com.
Excellent. All right. You've been listening to A+ Wrestling here on A+ Productions, aplusproductions.com, where you can sign up to one of our 3 feeds. We have A+ Sports, A+ Entertainment, and A+ Wrestling. A+ Productions, the best place to find out how you can sign up and follow the feeds. Dax, as always, it's been a pleasure. It's always a blast. Like I said, we're going to be hearing from you, I'm sure, sooner rather than later. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you again. Thank you so much for listening here on A+ Wrestling. And until next time, stay tranquilo.